Alright, when you're ready. I mean, there's never a nice way for it to end, but you'd be still pretty disappointed, I suppose, with the...
Spot on. Terrible. We were taught a massive lesson in commitment by all players. They had 22, turned out to be 20, and we had 21, and without naming players, we probably had, I reckon, 9, maybe 10 that would say, yep, we weren't too bad. So that leaves a lot of other players that were would have learned a great lesson from today. No lesson that a coach can talk about. You only learn that when you play against a very seasoned campaigner that sets a high standard.
Do you have any winners on the night?
I'll have to look at the review of the game. There's probably winners, but they're not overly evident. No, we would have had winners. We would have had winners.
Do you expect to get some more run when they went down?
Beg your pardon?
Do you expect to generate more run when they had injuries?
Well, let's make sure that's, we lost someone and we carried someone who was not into the game but got injured. So the balance was bad even. Our lack of run this year has been extraordinary. We've been able to win games by having less possessions than our opposition on numerous occasions. The last, if you look at it in a micro area, I suppose, the last 5 games, I don't think we've got anywhere near the possessions of our opponents. We just haven't got the numbers that can go through the middle, and we haven't got the run that's accompanied by numbers that go through the middle. Just haven't got it. When we've tried desperately to try to get as many midfielders into this team as we can, that hasn't been the case. We just haven't got enough players that can go through that area. And once again, when you look at players that from the opposition, that's where we get belted up.
Will those extra players that you need come from within, or will you have to?
Well, there's certainly no one. There's no one in the reserves that hasn't been tried. So we've just got to get better there. We have to find players that can play through the middle and give the players in there some respite. And so that doesn't mean that they can't play. It just simply means we haven't got enough of them.
Is that something you'd address in the trade and
Well,
period as well?
Well, if we can, it's not. You can't click your fingers and go, oh, all of a sudden we've got another 5 midfielders. It doesn't happen like that. And if we get 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds, they're going to take time. And if we get mature age players, it's very hard to bring in to a side top line midfielders. They just don't grow on trees. They take a Kennedy's a fantastic player, and yet he spent 3 or 4 developing years at Hawthorn. Hanbury wasn't a hit overnight. McVeigh's outstanding, but really played his early years away from the centre. Who else? They're just going to, anyway. Look, every side we've encountered, we've got to tag, have a massive discipline to stop sides from breaking from the stoppages. And I think Rob Wiley and Brad Green have done a fantastic job with our midfield, because we just can't give them support at this stage. And over a long period of time, it catches up with you. I think last week we had minus 60 possessions. You just have to hang on. And you don't win too many games by just hanging on, particularly when you come against the top sides.
With where the list is at, do you need to go for the mature midfielders?
No. I'm not here at Carlton for an easy, short fix. I've never left a club, I don't think anyway, in a position where they can't go forward. And I'm certainly not going to have a quick fix for me. It's got to be a fix for Carlton, and that may well be if we have predictably in the case of most sides, we'll have between, I'm guessing, say 5 to 10 picks.
There's not that many midfielders out there, and you can't.
Sorry, that's okay. And you can't just wave a wand over it and get another. You know, you've got to be patient, and it may well be 4 or 5 young kids. It may be 1 or 2 mature players. But who's going to let mature players that can play in the midfield go?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I think the name that everyone probably wants to say but isn't is Dale Thomas. Can you tell us anything about whether you would like him to come to Carlton?
Well, Dale is in that category, like many other players. He's a free agent, and we'll be exploring all free agency, like we did last year. And we lost a player through that with, I think it was Russell. So also you've got to look at free agency and just see, you know, what's available. It's not always, you know, what starts off at the beginning of the year as 30, 40 players. By midway through the year, most of them have been secured. And then you look at, you know, some players are in there near their 30s, so that 10-year player, is it 10-year, Patrick, or an 8-year, something like that? And then you've got to ask yourself, does it really, getting back to your question, does it really, is it a short-term fix? Dale is a good age player. He's got many years left in him. I know how he plays. I love the way he plays. But doesn't mean he's over the line. Doesn't mean he's anywhere near over the line. He's a Collingwood player as we speak. Now, he's got to make decisions. Does he stay there or does he move? No different than Eddie Betts with us. No different than half a dozen players that are still out there.
Do you want Eddie Betts to stay?
I like all good players to stay. Of course I do.
At the right price, I guess.
Oh, I don't deal with that. That's not for me. That's the club.
What about Cristiano? Would you like him to stay?
Well, why wouldn't he be staying? He's a contracted player and he's not a free agent.
Thought he might be traded.
Did you? What made you say that?
Probably hasn't quite had the year.
Oh, I thought Chris was good tonight. I don't think anyone's had the year we wanted, but a lot of them have had good games through the year. Chris was okay tonight. He certainly he might have got caught out a couple of times on his you know, you're playing against one of the better sides with a good player. He overcommitted in both of his tackles. Don't get caught up in that. No, Chris was okay.
Mick, all in all, sorry, Greg, how do you assess this year?
Well, I always thought it'd be a growth year, one where we have to learn a new trade, because I'm not here to assess or question the previous football administration coaching. I know what I believe is required to be a constant, permanent final 8 side, and it takes a good squad, it takes a good game plan, it takes a good strong fitness base, it takes good strong experienced players, and when all the planets aligned, you end up with a fairly good side. But I was under no illusions whatsoever that this was going to be, given our lack of opportunity to get into the trade, into the market last year, if you like. We worked with the players we had, and some have worked and some haven't. And the facts of life are that most of the players know that there's going to be changes.
Is there a risk that the quirky way you made the finals is going to inflate expectations of Carlton next year? Big club, big expectations.
What did I say? About making the finals? Sorry.
About?
Making the finals. I can't remember saying that. What did I say?
No, I'm not saying you said it. You made the finals in a quirky way.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Oh, for next year, you mean? Yeah. Oh, no. You've got to put yourself out there. We have no intent of finishing 9th or lower. I mean, we've these lads have now tasted. Some have tasted for the first time. If I'm not one of 18 coaches saying that we can't make the 8 or can make the 8, I'd be very surprised. And I'm talking about from Greater Western Sydney to Melbourne, first and second bottom. Every club should be saying, and their coach should be saying, our goal is to make the 8. I can categorically tell you, my goal is not to finish outside the 8, and that'd be such a lame area or lame quote.
You've been asked and spoken about individuals tonight. Will it be a significantly different looking list, do you think, next year?
Well, look, until we finish today, until we You know, the Players Association have either done us a very good favour or they've rushed things. We've got 2 days to have exit interviews and medicals for 44 players. It's pretty tight. So by Wednesday, we should be closer to having our list relatively completed, with the exception of players that will be or could be traded.
Last question.
Mick, what did you think of the surface tonight? A lot of players slipping over, and Chris Yarran a couple of times I noticed he changed his boots. Did you get any feedback from players about the surface?
Playing footy. You know, we're spoiled. The ground was slippery. So what? You know, the surface seemed to be okay to me. It was, it is a sport that is going to be played when there's slippery conditions. That's sometimes it detracts from the game. Other times you've got to readjust yourself. We can't always be treated with kid gloves like we have over the last 15, 20 years, where the grounds have come up unbelievably. You know, unless you put a lid over this, you're not going to stop that. And I think personally, I like the raw state of grounds where you have to accommodate different types of surface, different lengths, different widths, and if some are wet and some are dry. You've just got to be equipped, and you've got to be mentally prepared and mentally tough enough to play them. There's nothing wrong with that ground.
How different, though, is the surface here to other grounds?
Well, as far as dewiness goes, this wouldn't be any different than Adelaide. But the surface clearly is different because it's a smaller one. But I refuse point blank to ever think the ground. We played here 15 weeks ago, 130 mils of rain. SCG. It's not the ground's fault. It's not the groundsman's fault. It just simply flooded the area. We swam most of the game. But is it different? Of course, it's different. Different shape. But no, I think it's a very good ground to play footy on. Really.
Thanks, guys.
And it certainly didn't stop Sydney.
Thank you. Thanks.